So is it possible for a person to live their lives without acquiring or developing imagination? Is it possible for a person to live their lives without acquiring imagination? And once again, imagination we talk here is about this unnecessary, just veiling of being checked out. That's what we talk about. Well, it is possible to have much less time spent in being not at home. It is possible that to be much more conscious of what's here. You know, there are people, there are cats, there's my feeling, there is the sun, there is the leaves, and there's the taste of the coffee. To live consciously in the moment with what's real, as opposed to live in the imagined. I don't know if it's possible to be completely without that. I still find myself imagination, but it's much less.
I would say the short answer is no. That's my experience. The short answer is no. And the reason is because it's actually good, it's actually useful that imagination happens, daydreaming, associative thought. It's actually useful from the point of view of becoming more conscious, because this goes to the bigger picture of why are we in this form of a human being? And my deepest understanding of it is this being a human being is like a conduit. It's like a jar, and awareness, consciousness, which is formless, for some reason is not aware of itself. It needs to be contained in a form, in a certain special kind of way, such that it will cognize itself as consciousness. It will realize itself. It would be like empty air not being able to recognize itself as empty air until you put it in some kind of container. And by virtue of being in the container, and then seeing the container, and then realizing, wait a minute, I'm seeing this container. I'm not this container. I'm using thoughts to convey this, but it would realize, by virtue of being in the container, it realizes it's just empty air. It's empty. And consciousness or awareness it's the same. By virtue of imagination, associative thought, emotions, sensations, all these things serve as a catalyst or a fulcrum against which consciousness is able to realize itself. And so in this sense, all of these things are good. Imagination is not bad. Imagination is not something we want to stop. Imagination is not something we would hope we would never develop. Imagination can become a catalyst if we learn to just observe it, not attach to it, not identify with it, not derive a sense of I from it. Then it becomes this, it becomes the miracle of being a human being. Now consciousness can realize itself by seeing what it is not. And really that's what the fourth way is. Fourth way, you could say, is a system of teaching, trying to teach consciousness what it is not, in great detail, in amazing detail, in fact. In fact, in more detail than any other system I've ever encountered. It's teaching consciousness what consciousness is not. And this is where self-observation comes in all of this. Whereas the direct path, you could say, is more trying to inspire consciousness to understand what it is. It's much harder, more subtle. It's sort of like saying, you know what, you don't need a jar, you don't need to be contained to realize yourself. Just realize space, just realize yourself as space. But it doesn't work so well for everyone like that. So imagination, can you live without acquiring it? I would say no. And at the same time, I would say, and that's for good reason, because it can be a catalyst. It comes back to whatever you can observe is not the observing of it.